The last 12 starts by the starting pitchers, they have a combined ERA of 1.67. Umpires for tonight's game, the crew chief and a veteran, Terry Tata, will be behind the plate. Bill Hahn is at first base. Ed Rapawano is at second base, and Jerry Davis, who did such a good job last night behind the dish, moves down to call balls or call at third base. It's been a warm day here in Atlanta. Temperatures in the low 90s, and it's warm and a little humid tonight. One note, though, Skip, as I was down on the field earlier, and I really hadn't paid much attention to the flags before this, but Rafael Belliard came up to me and he says, "Wouldn't you know it? I get a start tonight, and the wind is blowing in."
What a bad break for him.
I said, not to mention the fact that Pedro Martinez is pitching. Is, yeah, I need to go talk to Pedro. Excuse me.
I'm not surprised by that. Mark Grizzolanek leads it off. He has 54 doubles on the year. He's hitting .273, 44 homers rather, 47 RBIs, 25 stolen bases. Pretty good year, though the average is not where he would like it to be. We're underway, and Glavine is greeted with a solid safety, a single to center. So that's the way the game starts. And Mike Lansing, the batter, he's got 45 doubles. They got 99 doubles from the top of their order. That's a lot of doubles for anybody.
They are key. They're a little bit like Otis Nixon and Eric Young now of the Dodgers. The fact that you got to keep these guys off the bases, or they'll drive you crazy. Each had a hit last night.
In case you missed it, the Mets beat the Marlins today, and the magic number is down to 3. Little chopper to third. Tough play in between hops. Get the out at second. That's all they can get, but a fine play by Chipper. I'm surprised he went that way, but he did and got the leading lady. Nice play. 1 down.
May have had something to do with Grizzolanek too. If you're the runner at first and you know the third baseman's going to have to throw off balance, you may not think that he's going to come to second base and may feel like you're going to make it in there easily, but they got him and cut down the lead runner.
Henry Rodriguez, the batter, 1 out of 10 in his career against Tom Glavine. Seattle and Oakland battle into extra innings, tied 3-3. Baltimore hammered Detroit today. It looks like it was 12-8 in the 10th. Toronto and the Yankees 3-3, and Boston apparently defeated the White Sox 1-0. The scoreboard's a little sick tonight. Strike over the outside corner. It's 0-1. Now we're told that that game is a rain delay, that White Sox-Red Sox game. That's not reflected on our board. Throw to first, runner back. The Padres clobbered the Giants today 12-2, but the Dodgers missed a chance to tie it up. They lost to Colorado 2-1. Houston beats Cincinnati. Hot shot. That might be 2, 5, 4, 3. And Lansing got left in the dust as they leaped over him down there. 1 hit, no runs, no errors, nobody left. We go to the bottom half of the first inning. No score in the ball game.
Lesko back in the lineup will bat 5th, and Michael Tucker behind him. Javi Lopez, Rafael Belliard, and Tom Glavine round out the order. For the Expos in the outfield, Rodriguez, White, and McGuire. Doug Strange gets the start at third base, otherwise the infield intact from a night ago, and Darren Fletcher will do the catching for Pedro Martinez, who is having some kind of great year. 25 years old, 5'11", 170 out of the Dominican Republic. He has the top ERA in the major leagues at 1.91. He has the most complete games in the major leagues with 12. The batting average against him, 183, as you see, the tops in the National League. And 284 strikeouts. He, too, like Schilling, closing in on 300 strikeouts. 0-1 against the Braves this year. Lifetime, 3-4 against them.
We're at bat there in the field, and here's our leadoff man. And Kenny Lofton takes a pitch outside. 1 ball, no strikes. 1.91 ERA. 2 balls, no strikes. No score, bottom of the first. This is part of Fan Appreciation Weekend, and boy, we sure do appreciate the fans this year. They've been great. 3-0.
something that happened to Martinez in his only start against the Braves earlier this year. 6 walks in that ball game, and that was a game in which he tied his season high for walks.
There's a strike right in there. 3-1.
He throws hard, has a slider and a changeup. That slider really tough on left-handed batters.
The 3-1 pitch. He walked him. There's a start. Lofton aboard to start the game, and Keith Lockhart, the batter, hitting at .291. He's never batted against Pedro. That's his 63rd walk in 226 and a third innings. Georgia Bulldogs won big today. Nice relaxing post-game show. Everything worked out fine. There's a strike. Good pitch. 0-1 the count. Georgia Tech trailing Wake Forest tonight 7-0. Oklahoma and Missouri both winning.
That's a feat itself of late.
Stunning. The 0-1. Long time at the belt. Good change. Had him way out in front. It's 0-2. So Lockhart hitting out of an 0-2 hole.
Like his brother Ramon Martinez, Pedro with that great changeup when he got to the big leagues. He was traded for Delano DeShields, and the Dodgers would like to make that one over again, I think.
I think so. Boy, how tough would they be with this guy? The 0-2 pitch. Upstairs. 1-2 now the count. The outfield plays Keith slightly toward left field.
One of the things about Pedro that I think when you see him pitch in person that surprises you the most is how slight he is for the velocity that he can deliver it up there.
Throw to first. Close. Lost him back. Felipe Alou has said that if he has a chance at 20 wins, or if he has a chance at 300 strikeouts and doesn't have it, he might give him some work the last day of the season, which would not be his day to work, but just to give him a shot at a better shot at the Cy Young Award, and that's understandable. Got him. Low fire. Lockhart out of there. A walk and a strikeout to start the game. That's his 285th strikeout of the year.
Whatever that was, it was going down. Keith couldn't catch up to it. And the thing about Martinez of late, even though his numbers aren't as good since the All-Star break as they were before the break, that's 109 strikeouts in his last 81 innings.
Whew. Georgia Tech has tied Wake Forest 7-7 early in the second quarter. The pitch to Chipper is a strike right in there. Jones 2 out of 16 against him. 1 a home run. Chipper, the first third baseman in the major leagues to have as many as 20 homers and 20 stolen bases since Howard Johnson did it back in '91. There's that change of pace again. It's 0-2.
In addition to the home runs, doubles, team record for that broke the record of 39 set by Terry Pendleton, and back-to-back 100-plus RBI seasons.
Not too shabby. That didn't take long. 2 down.
Like a split finger pitch, same pitch that got Lockhart.
You can see why the league's hitting what they're hitting against this guy.
Nasty. That might have just been a changeup. The way he cut it, turned it over a little bit, that might have been a changeup. Chipper was out in front. Top hand came off the bat.
Fred, the batter. 6 out of 24 against Martinez with a couple of homers. Oh, 0-1.
Fred's had a good homestand. He's raised his average up a little bit, but I think more importantly to him, the fact that he has closed in on the 100 RBI mark in this homestand.
0-1 the count. Fastball inside. Boy, he's got good stuff. 1-1 the count. Lofton still waits at first. He threw that ball right by him. He got around very late on that fastball.
And he has such a quick move to the plate. He's got a snappy throw to first to hold the runners close, and then when he does deliver to the plate, it's a short, quick step, and he doesn't lose anything on his fastball, as you just saw. So it's tough for Lofton to get a good jump.
It's almost like he jumps at you. 2-2.
He does jump at you a little bit and makes that changeup even more effective.
And 2-2, runner at first, 2 out. Started to go, held up. Now Lofton will run on the 3-2 pitch.
His last start came against Pittsburgh. Got no decision as his teammates bailed him out. They eventually lost in extra innings, but he went 7 innings and gave up 11 hits and 4 runs, and the 11 hits were tied for the most he had allowed this year.
The 3-2 runner goes, inning over. He strikes out the side, and he now has 287 strikeouts on the year. No hits, no runs, no errors, 1 left. An inning is passed. We are scoreless.
Braves baseball on the Superstation, brought to you by the Mercedes-Benz M-Class, the first 4x4 to perform like a Mercedes, and by Hardee's.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Headlining tonight's really big show, here is the Mercedes-Benz.
He's hitting .304 right-handed, .309 left-handed, and .308, as you see, overall. Little tap to first. Fred will step on the base and plenty of time. 1 away. California has taken a 9-7 lead over Oklahoma late in the first quarter.
Guys, you think that guy's eligible to kick for California?
Ignacio Brocchi? Sure. Pirates lead St. Louis 2-0, bottom of the first. Houston won their game today. Rondell White fouls it away, 0-1. He's hitting .268. He's 7 out of 29 against Tom Glavine in his career. Well, we got to have a meeting with Dave Baker when we get over to radio. Coming in to the park today, first the pitch. Swung and missed, 0-2. I was listening to the Florida-Tennessee game on the Tennessee network. They've got a stage manager in radio and all sorts of different people. We got to get to work on that, don't we? Well hit left field, but in fact it's not well hit. Sounded well hit, but he hit it off the handle and popped out. 2 down.
No, I don't think so.
No?
No, my silence was kind of a remark to that.
I'd just like to see what a radio stage manager does. Darren Fletcher is the batter.
Although there have been times where we've needed spotters.
Yeah. There's a strike over the outside corner. 0-1. Fletcher with 17 homers, 55 runs driven home. 1-1 the count. Crowd still filing in here. Weather's supposed to take a turn for the cooler tomorrow. High's supposed to be in the high 70s. Fly ball foul to left.
You know what's neat about coming to the game here on Sunday mornings?
The 1-2 pitch. No.
That by the time when you and I come to the ballpark, you know, 3 hours or so before the ball game, it's almost like a college or pro football atmosphere here. Fans already here milling around 3 hours before the game, anxious to get in the gates to take in the center field plaza area. It's amazing. Vendors out on the street, people selling the t-shirts and everything. That's what it reminds me of when I get here on Sundays.
The 2-2. Grounded foul past first. It is a college atmosphere. Good point, Joe. You're doing a great job.
Let me mark that down. It's a date.
The 2-2. Right back where it came from. 1-3 and the inning is over. No hits, no runs, no errors, and nobody left. Bottom of the second. No score.
Asking him about his new specs he had, he said that his wife had picked those out for him, Kathy. So I'm sure she'll probably get the camera too, so she can take all kinds of pictures of him with his new glasses.
He needed that free camera too. That's really important to him.
Yeah, he probably did.
Ryan Klesko leads off the second. 0-1 the count.
You know what Clarence Jones told me today about Ryan that I never really thought about much, but makes sense? Number one, he's really relaxed up there more. His hands are a little calmer. I'm not sure that it'll help. Anything will help tonight against Pedro Martinez.
Not the way he looks right now.
But one of the things he did for Ryan was he took him out of a group that Ned Yost pitches to and put him in a group with Leon Roberts. That doesn't sound like a great deal of difference, except that Ned really throws the ball hard when he's throwing BP. He zips it up there pretty good, and you have a tendency to try to swing hard at him. Leon lays it in there nice and easy, and it allowed Ryan to relax a little more in batting practice.
Yeah, I would have never even thought of that.
No.
1-2.
But a good move, I think, on the part of CJ, just to allow Ryan to relax a little bit, make him use his hands a little more in batting practice and be able to take that into the game with him.
Leon needs a little work on the sunflower seeds, but he'll be all right. The 1-2 pitch. Good cut there, but he fouled it back. It's still 1-2. Boy, this guy. He's always been a pretty good pitcher, but this year it's like he's taken a huge step forward. Pedro Martinez. He knows what he wants to do. He doesn't have a whole lot of room or time to get out of the way. He wanted to knock him off the plate. It's 2-2.
Well, he's not shy at all about pitching inside. We've discussed that before in some of his starts. That was a slider that kept cutting in.
The 2-2 pitch. Missed outside. Full count, 3-2. He's hit 9 batters this year, had 3 wild pitches. But there was nothing wrong with that pitch. That's just a good brush back. Got it. 4 strikeouts in a row. There is no such thing as unhittable, but this is about as close to it as you're going to see right now.
This is a fastball, and look at the movement on this pitch. Moving off the plate away from Ryan, started it on the plate, and then it moves away, and it's tough to lay off that pitch when it starts at the corner.
Michael Tucker is the batter. David Cohn made a successful return to the Yankees today. Allowed 3 runs over 5 innings. 79 pitches, 46 strikes. Another one inside. 1 ball, no strikes.
This ball gets on you so quick. You're seeing some funny reactions from Klesko and Tucker because you don't expect the ball to ride in on you that fast. He throws hard.
Started to go and stopped. 2-0. Jerry Davis with the call from third. There's a strike. 2-1. He doesn't mess around out there either. He just grabs the ball and cuts her loose. High and outside. He's thrown a lot of pitches. That's the only negative about him so far tonight. He's had a lot of long counts. Pop foul back and out of play.
This is one of those nights when Felipe Alou can have the night off more or less, like Bobby Cox has so many nights with his starting rotation. He doesn't have to worry about a whole lot in terms of what kind of effort he'll get.
5 strikeouts in a row.
Take a look at this one. Fastball that had some movement on it, but that's not a cross seam fastball. That's like a 2-seamer that he's cutting a little bit.
Well, let's see how Javi Lopez does. He's 2 out of 11 in his career against the Montreal right-hander. Breaking ball fouled off, 0-1.
I know one thing for sure. Rafi's on deck, and I don't know if he'll get up this inning. But when he does, he is not going to go up there waiting to just see a pitch, see how he's throwing.
He's 2 out of 4 against Martinez.
And he will go up there hacking right away.
The 0-1 pitch. Down the right field line. That ball's got a chance. That ball is out of here. Home run. A line drive home run down the right field line. That interrupts the strikeout string, and the Braves take the lead.
And that ball jumped off his bat. After his first round of hitting in the cage today, Javi walked around behind the cage. He said, I don't know. I can't hit a ball out anymore, even in batting practice. He didn't even take a big swing at this.
Right down the line, and it just skimmed over the wall. Well, that's how you do it, Rafi. Here we go. Just missed it. 0-1. The home run, number 23 for Lopez, is 68th RBI.
It may be blowing in, Rafi, but it looks like it's carrying to right.
Just missed that one. 0-2.
2 breaking balls. Chances are pretty good he might get another one here.
Whatever he said to Martinez before the game, he didn't plead his case very convincingly.
No.
There's a drive to right, but it's playable. Ryan McGuire in foul territory makes the catch, and the inning is over. But the Braves break on top on the Lopez homer. The only hit of the inning. Nobody left at the end of 2. 1-0 Atlanta.
Was at New York. They were tied up in the 11th. Seattle and Oakland also tied in extra innings.
Doug Strange leads off the 3rd and takes outside 1 ball, no strikes. I asked Bobby tonight on his radio show, Joe, about how many starters he would employ in the first playoff round, and he's going to go with all 4 guys. High pop. That should be easy. Chipper Jones has a beat on it and puts it away for the first out in the 3rd.
Something funny about the end of that home run trot for Javi Lopez when he was coming into the plate. Darren Fletcher must have said something to him, and watch Javi's reaction. I don't know how I did it either.
Yeah, that's what I bet that's what he said. How did you hit that pitch out? Here's Ryan McGuire. He takes the strike. Ryan, no relation to former Turner Broadcasting executive Don McGuire. Oh, 1-2 the count.
Or Mark McGuire.
Well, he spells it different.
He's got a W in there, doesn't he?
He also has 54 homers. On 3 pitches.
Left-handed guy's not too bad out there either, is he?
No, he's not. It's a little slightly different style of pitching, but it's working very nicely, thank you.
Big breaking ball. Good pitch.
Pedro's hitting 121. No homers, no RBIs, no stolen bases. Outside ball 1. Glenn Diamond, our producer tonight. Glenn, are we doing one of those postseason tapes this year? The 1-0 pitch. Pop foul back. Are you doing it, or how's that work? A ball and a strike to count. Well, we're going to talk about this after the game. I didn't think it was that tough a question, but I guess it was. 1-2 the count. No hits, no runs, no errors, nobody left. We go to the bottom of the third. Braves 1, Expos nothing.
A pretty sunset here at Turner Field. Braves on top 1-0. Let's take a look at the Rogaine leaderboard. Tonight's topic, Major League magic numbers. A couple that could be affected in some extra inning games tonight. The Orioles' magic number could go to 3 if the Yankees lose in extra innings. Also, Seattle is still tied in the 11th inning with Oakland. If they win, theirs could go to 2, and of course the Braves could go down if they win this game, and they lead 1-0.
Tom Glavine leads off the bottom of the third. Pedro Martinez now has given up 16 home runs on the year. Bobby Dews skips the rope to get out of the way. Way to go, Bobby. 0-1. He's got a bad knee, too. I know that hurt.
Yeah, it did. The being an old middle infielder, he knew how to get over that sliding runner coming in at him.
The 0-1 pitch. Ground ball to deep short. Grizzolonic has it. Good throw gets him. Good throw got him. 1 away in the bottom of the third. Kenny Lofton will be the batter.
Center fielder, number 7, Kenny Lofton.
Lofton walked in the first, but then Martinez struck out the side. A 2-out homer by Javi Lopez has been it to this point of the game. One hopper to short. Grizzolonic throws post play. Got him. 2 down. And now Grizzolonic has a chance to tie a record held by many. If another ground ball is hit his way, we'll have 3 assists in the inning. Actually, that's probably not a record. There's probably been more than that.
Might have been.
So once again, I was wrong. You really enjoy that, don't you?
Oh,
I know what
just
you're
love
up
it.
to.
I just love it. And we're only in the 3rd inning.
That's right. 1 ball, no strikes. Missouri 28, Tulsa 21. That highly rated Tulsa team. Ground ball foul past first.
Speaking of highly rated, looks like a big crowd in the 755 club tonight. I hear the food out there has been great. I can't wait to check it out. A lot of folks out on the patio part of the 755 club.
Two balls and a strike.
Broken bat grounder by Kenny Lofton. Must have felt a few bees in his hand on that jam shot.
Lockhart, a strikeout victim, his first time. 3-1 the count. Chipper is next. 1:10 game tomorrow. It will be on Braves radio only and Sports South. Mike Johnson against Denny Nagel. We'll be back with you Monday night. Mark Valdez against Greg Maddux. Over the outside corner, it's 3-2. Braves win tonight. The magic number goes to 2. If they win, and they're far from doing that. High pop, coming back and out of play. That's an out last year, but not this year. And there is the possibility then, if the Braves win tomorrow, that they could clinch it while having dinner at home. The Marlins, I assume, play one of their 4:30 games. Line drive, a solid hit for Lockhart. So Chipper bats with 2 out.
Talk about short swings a lot when we're talking about Keith Lockhart, because the length of his swing is cut off by a quick follow through. And watch how he uses his top hand here on a low pitch, went down and got it, and then snapped that follow through to pull it into right field. He's got some strong hands and forearms.
Chipper 2, a strikeout his first time. On the corner. Boy, he throws hard. 0-1. Another capacity crowd on hand. Another capacity crowd tomorrow. There are many tickets remaining for Monday. 0-2.
Just got a little cold spray on his left hand.
Lazy fly into center. Rondell White is back there. Hit that one off his front foot. The inning is over. 1 hit. But no runs, no errors, and 1 left. We have completed 3 at Turner Field. And the Braves enjoy a 1-0 lead. Well, guess.
Al Oliver. No.
Rains. Cromartie. Ellis Valentine.
Before that, huh?
Well, we know who it isn't, and with the 4th, here's Joe.
Mark Grudzielanek hit the first pitch of the ball game for a base hit. Was erased when Lansing hit into a forced play. The 1-0 pitch outside, 2-0. Only 9 batters faced through the first trip through the order for Tom Glavine. I guess that makes sense. When you go through the order, you're only going to face 9 guys, right? Deep to right. Tucker at the wall. Makes the catch right up against the wall. That ball carried a little bit to right field. It didn't seem to be hit that well.
Grudzielanek has hit Glavine well the last couple times he's faced him. He was 3 out of 27 coming into this game. But he got a couple of those hits the last time the two met. And he's hit the ball hard twice tonight.
1 out for Lansing, who hit into that fielder's choice in the first inning. Phil just gave me a hint. It's a good one because I know who it is now. Oh, no, you can't see it.
You can't see the hint?
No.
You dirty.
1-0, the count to Lansing. I want you to keep guessing.
Okay, I'll start guessing. Bet he used to be a broadcaster, used to run a restaurant.
You're right on it. Don't even need the hint. You got it. Lansing hitting .286. Changeup is low. 3-0.
It's a high water mark for me. I got some help from the truck.
Oh. Walked him on 4 pitches. So while Glavine only had faced 9 batters through the first 3 innings, he walks Lansing with 1 out. Lansing has 11 stolen bases on the year, and Henry Rodriguez, the batter, he hit into a double play his first time. It's only Tom's 2nd walk in his last 3 starts. Falls behind Rodriguez. 1-0 the count. Rodriguez 6'1", 205. 0 for 2 last night with a walk and a strikeout. And 1 for 11 lifetime against Glavine with 5 strikeouts. Tried to pull that outside pitch. It's 1-1. Tommy came into the start with 224 innings worked. He's now up to 227. Smoltz, as Greg Maddux was alluding to in the opening comments, he's talking about John's innings pitched and how important they are, and they're not reflected in his record. But he's had a lot of ball games, has Smoltz, where he probably deserved better. Outside 2-1. Braves have 2 hits. One was a homer by Javi Lopez. That's the only run of the game so far. I would not guess that they would hit and run much with Rodriguez as much as he swings and misses, but you never know with Felipe Alou. 2-1 pitch. Missed outside. He's fallen behind Rodriguez 3-1. .145 strikeouts for Rodriguez, 40 walks, 26 doubles, 26 homers. 3-1 pitch, runner not going. He walked Rodriguez. Back-to-back walks, and Glavine's in some trouble here with the cleanup hitter up, David Segui. And Segui, a batter that has hit Tom at times. He's 6 for 18 lifetime against him with a double and a homer. Phil, isn't Tom among the league leaders in getting double plays, though? Isn't Glavine among the league leaders in double plays? Thank you. Leads the National League. Thank you. Missed that. He needs one here. Segui takes a strike. Segui rallied last night. He got a base hit his last time up in the 9th inning to extend his hitting streak to 9 games. Lansing at second. Rodriguez at first. 0-2. The Expos on a 4-city trip. They are 2-7 in the first 9 games. With this game and 2 more to play against Atlanta before heading home. The 0-2 changeup, soft line drive caught by Lockhart. They doubled up Lansing, and Glavine's out of the inning on another double play. Lansing didn't know what to do on the line drive. He didn't know if it was going to drop or if it was going to be caught in the air. And the Braves are out of the inning. No trouble. 1 left. We go to the bottom of the 4th. Braves lead 1-0. Five strikeouts for Martinez. This year he has had 17 games in which he has struck out 10 or more batters. 1-1. He went around. 1-2. Something else about Pedro Martinez, you don't see this very often. Left-handers are hitting 183 against him. Right-handers are hitting 183 against him. Fred chased a high fastball, and it's out of play. Now you figured Martinez to get 2 more starts the rest of the way, maybe 3. Like you were talking about, if he gets cramped at the end of the season on short rest, if he's got a chance to win 20, you know they're going to give him every opportunity without running a risk of injury. McGriff down on strikes. That's number 6.
Our Aflac trivia question was, who was the first everyday player to hit 300 for the Expos in a season? And the answer, one of the most popular Expos ever, Rusty Staub, 302 and 69.
Le Grand Orange.
Funny, he was also the first Astros player to hit 300 in a year.
Ryan Klesko struck out his first time up. Comes up empty on that one.
Excuse me, Joe. By the way, I checked about their ballpark. We were talking last night.
1-1.
It would have 66 luxury boxes, and 22 of them have apparently been sold. But nobody knows.
1-2.
They only have a season ticket base of around 6,000, I'm told, and they want to get that up to 18, and nobody knows how that's going to go. And they have stated publicly that if they don't get a new park, they'll leave.
And Klesko down on strikes with a wave and a miss. 7 strikeouts for Martinez. The story I think I read on that, Skip, was that they would definitely play in Montreal next season.
Yeah.
But for the '99 season, nothing is etched in stone, and that's when, if things don't get better or new stadium isn't approved, they would be out of there.
That's the other thing about all these interleague plans. What if an Oakland and a Montreal move to different sectors of the country?
It's true.
You may have to, whatever plan they arrive on, that may have to be adjusted.
2-0 to Michael Tucker, who struck out his first time. For example, one move that took place back in the early 70s, the fact that the Washington Senators moved from Washington, D.C. to Dallas, Texas, or Arlington, Texas, to be more exact. That would change the look of a division geographically. 2-2.
But I guess you just have to go ahead with what you think is the best plan, because you don't, obviously, who knows what's going to happen a year from now.
Struck out the side again. Tucker's down on strikes for the second time, and that's 8 for Martinez. He has fanned McGriff, Klesko, and Tucker twice each. We go to the 5th. 1-0 Braves. White popped to left his first time up. Fouls one down the line. 0-1. Hey, how about this? One of our tape operators in the truck tonight, Dave Winston, is getting married tomorrow. Congratulations and best wishes.
Sorry, Dave, but crew call is 9 o'clock. Oh, that's right. We're not working. You're okay.
He picked an off day. See you Monday. Outside 1-1.
He's working tonight.
He's getting ready.
No bachelor party.
Have you seen the truck tonight? That's foul. Just missed the third base bag.
No,
1-2.
There are peculiar sounds emanating from it every so often.
It's getting a little irritating hearing those kazoos in the background every time somebody talks to us. Changeup misses. 2-2 the count. Rondell White out of Milledgeville, Georgia, lives now in Gray. Terrific high school athlete. Full count.
So he'll be getting married on 9/19/97. That's good. A numerical sequence, right?
Tomorrow's the 21st.
Oh, it is? My watch is broken. Well, that's still a good numerical sequence.
Payoff pitch has popped up. Klesko calls for it and makes the catch. 1 out. Braves had some of their minor league phenoms in the park tonight to honor them as minor league players of the year. Among those in attendance that were able to attend tonight's ceremonies, Louis Rivera, a pitcher that worked for Danville this year. A.J. Zapp, former #1 pick for the Braves. Bruce Chen, a terrific looking pitcher that worked at Macon. And Steve Hacker, who had a great year offensively at Macon. 30-some homers. Darren Fletcher takes ball 1. Also Adam Johnson, who almost won a Triple Crown at Durham. Adam Butler and Pedro Swan, who both played at Greenville on their Southern League Championship team. Congratulations to all the guys. Kevin Millwood, Randall Simon also received awards. Kevin Millwood in the bullpen tonight. Randall Simon has seen some action since he was called up. Stay fair. It does. And McGriff with an easy play. 2 down. I enjoyed visiting with Bill Fisher tonight on a pregame radio interview. I was asking him about his 50 years in baseball. He started in 1948. went to a tryout camp in Wisconsin, Rapids, Wisconsin, I think that's what he said, and signed with the White Sox for $150 a month. Won his first 10 ball games, won 14 for the year in a half season. Got a promotion from D-ball to C-ball the next year and a $25 raise.
And was probably happy to get it.
Thrilled to death. One-0 pitch to Strange. A strike, 1-1. Bill was known for his control. Set some records, not walking batters. I was asking him about Greg Maddux, and he said, I think Maddux is the greatest control pitcher, along with Dennis Eckersley, that he has ever seen. You know what else he told me too that's nice, that I'm sure he has shared with a lot of these guys, is the fact that this is the first time he's been back in the big leagues in 7 years since he was a pitching coach in the big leagues. And he said sometimes when you see the same quality of player, the same class of player for 7 years, you think this is the best. He said it's nice to get up here and be reminded that not only are conditions better, but so are the players. Tom Glavine, one of them, as he records the strikeout, his third of the night. We played 4.5. Pete and Don headed over. It's 1-0 Braves.
And speaking of Javi Lopez, he will kick it off for the Braves here in the bottom of the 5th inning. Lopez, Belliard, and Glavine. Martinez starts him with a breaking ball. 1 ball, no strikes. That ball had to just sneak over the right field fence for a homer. I was a little surprised he was able to keep it fair. Comebacker, and Javi Lopez has his second hit of the night. He came into this ball game 2 out of 11 against Martinez, but you wouldn't know it, the swings he's had tonight. It's a perfect 2 for 2, and he stands at first for Rafael Belliard.
Got a shot at hitting 300. He's hitting 295 coming into this game, 2 for 2 tonight. A week left in the season. Hot finish, he could get it there. He's at 299 right now with that base hit.
Name me the 300 hitting catchers around. There
aren't many of them.
So Lopez is at first for Belliard. First time up, he flied to right. Did it with 2 strikes after waving at 2 breaking balls. As free swinger as he is, and with Glavine a pretty good hitting pitcher, would you play a little hit and run here? You know, if he throws it, Rafael Belliard is going to take a hack at it. Not going, he's bunting. And it's a dandy. They're only going to get 1 play. They'll throw out Belliard. Catcher to first baseman. It's a sacrifice, and Javi Lopez is in scoring position.
And it shows you just how much respect Bobby Cox has for Tom Glavine as a hitter. It's something you rarely see. Number 7 hitter gets on base. Pitcher due up 2 hitters later. And the number 8 hitter bunts the runner over for the pitcher to hit. But Glavine's that good a hitter.
Glavine first time up, sent a grounder to short. His batting average at .241. He has 14 homers, but one of the most impressive numbers, he has 17 sacrifices himself. Swing and a miss at the change, 0-1.
The only one I can think of hitting 300 to the catchers right now is Mike Piazza. I can't think of another one. Just aren't that many
300
hitting catchers.
Well, what a year Piazza is having. Another changeup, and it's 0-2 to Tom Glavine. That shows you how much respect Martinez has for Glavine as a hitter. Most hitters, you just say, don't walk him. That's not the case with Tom Glavine. He has dropped 2 nasty changeups on him, and the count 0-2. On the ground, Segui has got it, bobbles it. Throw to first, not in time. No, Glavine puts it in play. That'll probably go as an error on Segui, and the Braves have him at the corners.
And Tom Glavine's still a little bit sensitive about that Achilles heel injury that he had earlier in the year. Caused him to miss the start. Doesn't usually run very hard to first, but when he has a chance to beat one out like that, he does go hard. See, he's going pretty hard down the line here. Last time up, he hit that ground ball to short, and he just kind of loped down to first. When he doesn't have a chance to beat it out, he takes it easy on that heel.
And the Braves will go back to the top of the batting order. It's Kenny Lofton up for his 3rd time. 2nd officially. He walked leading off the ball game for the Braves. His other at bat, he grounded to short. Let's see how the Expos play the infield. Looks like they're thinking of maybe bringing him in. They're in at the corners, but halfway at second and short. Look how far in Strange is at third. Way in on the grass. Off the fist and out of play, 0-1. Keep an eye on Bobby Dews. Let's see what he and Bobby Cox have up their sleeves. You see, in a situation like this, the message is delivered with signs to Lofton. I'd be saying there's no squeeze on because he didn't go say anything to Javi Lopez. Normally, you deliver the sign to the hitter and verbally to the guy at third. Not going. Grounder to short. Could be two to Lansing for one. The first not in time. Fielder's choice, RBI, 2-0 Braves.
And even though you had Kenny Lofton running here, and even though the ball was hit to deep shortstop, there was still a chance to turn this for Montreal because of Lansing's throwing arm. He has a very strong throwing arm, among the strongest in the National League among second basemen. And watch how hard he gets that ball over to first, but it's still just a tad late. And Kenny Lofton going full tilt down the line, beats it out, gets his 47th RBI, and gets the Braves a 2-0 lead.
Lofton will stand at first with two gone for Keith Lockhart. 1 out of 2, a strikeout and a single. Starts him with the change, 0-1. He has had a great changeup all night. Lockhart with that one hit has pushed his batting average up 4 points. Two. I liked your description when you were talking about the Lockhart trade and what he has brought to this ball club.
Yeah, it's a trade that did exactly what it was supposed to do, and that doesn't often happen. You make a trade to get a guy because you need a left-hand hitter off the bench. He had played a little bit in that role with Kansas City, and he adapted very well to it here. He's been the best left-hander the Braves have had off the bench all year.
Yeah, a lot of times you get an unknown commodity.
Yeah, a lot of times you go and you get a guy maybe who plays almost every day for another ball club, and you say, well, we'll make him a reserve, have him come off the bench, and he can't adapt to that role. But Lockhart already had some experience in that role, and has certainly
got him.
Shown it here.
Good quick move by Martinez. He nails Lofton. Looked like Kenny Lofton was thinking of hustling down the second, but he is picked off. But the Braves do come away with one. Nice tag there by Segui. A run on a hit and 1 error. Nobody left through 5. It's 2-0 Braves. The killer, Ken Nolan. Busman's Holiday. Hi, killer. McGuire to lead it off.
Very aware of where the cameras are, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he has spent a few nights and days watching those monitors, so he knows where they'll be. McGuire takes a ball that's 1-1. In the air to left center field, pretty deep. Long run for Lofton and for Klesko. They're not going to get it. Second hit of the night. McGuire has the double. That's his 14th double of the year. And they think they have a winner in him, don't they?
Yeah, they do. He's a pretty good story this year for them. They brought him up when David Segui got hurt to fill in for a couple of weeks at first base, and he hit so well during that stretch of playing time that he's just stayed in the lineup ever since, playing some outfield now. Only the second hit allowed by Glavine.
Rudder in scoring position with nobody out here in the 6th inning. Here comes Martinez. Let's see how Felipe Alou plays it. Chipper Jones thinking at third that they might be bunting him over. He is in on the grass. He is bunting. It's out in front of the plate. Javi Lopez will go to third. Not in time. Good slide by McGuire. He avoids the tag of Chipper Jones. And the Expos have him at the corner.
And no argument from Chipper because of the slide by Ryan McGuire. He had a certain out at first, but he tried to get the runner at third, and Chipper never got the glove on him until then. And McGuire never came off the bag.
What a great slide.
Slides to the outfield side of the bag, right around the glove of Chipper Jones, and then holds onto the bag while Chipper's trying to hope for the overslide there.
So they're at the corner, still nobody out. Back to the top of the batting order, and a tough guy to get out. Mark Grizzolanek. He's 1 out of 2, a single and a fly to right. Braves will lead the infield back. They'll be looking for ground ball off the bat of Mark Grizzolanek, trying to turn the double play. Two and 0. Just running over some numbers, a little bit of a surprise to me. The Expos don't ground into all that many double plays, only 91. They get 92 now grounded into. Tops on the club is Rondell White. Second on the club is Mark Grizzolanek. Always considered him more of a fly ball hitter. 3 balls and no strikes. So Glavine 1 wide of the strike zone away from loading him up for Mike Lansing. And he's a tough out. He's in a slump on this road trip, but he is a tough out. Right through the heart. It's 3-1. Grizzolanek, a 12th round pick back in '91. Fouls it away, and Glavine has battled back to get the full count. Grizzolanek is one of those guys that he was not an eye popper his first 3 or 4 years in the organization, but all of a sudden that 4th year, 122 games, and he opened up some eyes, and he's been at short ever since. 3-2 pitch off the fist, right field. That should be deep enough to get McGuire home from third. The throw will go back into second. Sacrifice fly. The Braves lead cut in half. It's 2-1.
And 48 RBIs now for Grizzolanek. Pretty good number for a leadoff hitter.
1 out for Lansing. Up for his 3rd time, 2nd official time. He grounded into a fielder's choice that erased Grizzolanek back in the 1st inning. He was walked in the 4th inning and wiped out on a double play, a liner that went to Lockhart to Belliard to double him up. Could be 2, maybe a little bit too slow. Lockhart will take the 1 play to first. Martinez moves up 90 feet. 2 gone. He stands at second.
Lansing's story a little bit like that of Kerry Lightenberg. Back when he started out in 1990, there weren't any of those independent leagues around, or at least not the number there are now. But there was an independent team at Miami Club in the Florida State League. He signed with them. He had not been drafted by anybody. Played with them for 2 years.
How do you hit for those guys? That's considered Class A.
242 and 286, little power. And then Montreal signed him after that 2nd year with the independent Miami Ball Club. And here he is in the major leagues.
And here's Henry Rodriguez up for his 2nd time. He's grounded into a Chipper Jones, Keith Lockhart, Fred McGriff double play that ended the 1st inning. He drew a walk. Glavine walked him and Lansing back to back in the 4th inning. The only 2 base on balls issued by Tom Glavine. A run in, 2 outs, top of the 6th. Down and away, and it's 2-0. Rodriguez, one of 3 left-handers in the batting order tonight in the lineup for Felipe Alou. He, Fletcher, and McGuire. You surprised they're in there, or surprised?
No, I'm not. I'm surprised more managers don't do that.
Here's the pitch count at this point. 3-0.
Always used to shake my head when Fernando was on the mound. Finally, some managers began to put some lefties in the lineup and had a little more success against Fernando Valenzuela. Tom Glavine has a lot of success against right-hand hitters.
Takes a changeup is such a devastating weapon, and for Valenzuela, that screwball would just eat up right-handed hitters. 3-0 pitch. He's taken all the way, and he'll take a strike. 3-1. Rodriguez, a hitter in Felipe Alou's lineup that gets the green light a lot, 3-0, but maybe not against a left-hander. He'll certainly be hacking if he gets one to his liking here. A little bit high, ball 4. Third walk issued by Glavine, the second time he has walked the left-handed hitting Henry Rodriguez. The Expos have him at first and second for David Segui. Segui is a right-handed hitter, switch hitter. He's hitting right against Glavine tonight, but he has been one guy in the lineup that has tried to hit the ball the other way off of Tom Glavine. First time up, he grounded off the end of the bat to McGriff. Next time up, hit it fairly well, but right at Keith Lockhart at second, so he's making a conscious effort. The Braves are noticing that, and they have him defensed as though he's going to hit to the right side. 1-0. Nine-game hitting streak on the line for him. And he's 6 out of 19 against Tom Glavine. Out of play, 1-1. Glavine not happy with the baseball. This always cracks me up when a ball is thrown in like that, because the umpire rubs it up a little, and guess where it goes?
Right back in the pocket.
Yep, it'll be right back out there too as soon as the next one is fouled away. Good changeup. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Martinez, the pitcher, at second. He has spent a little time on the base pass this inning. And Rodriguez at first. The Expos have pushed 1 across. Two and 2. Popping up about him the last month or so. Where will he be next year? In the air, shallow left field. Belliard is back. Klesko is coming on. It's Belliard who will put it away. Glavine gets himself in a little bit of a jam, has some good damage control. The Expos come away with 1 on 1 hit with 2 left. Middle of the 6th. It's a 1-run ball game.
Braves leading at 2-1 as we go to the bottom half of the 6th. Tomorrow night on the NFL on TNT, it'll be Dan Marino and the Miami Dolphins traveling across state to face the 3-0 Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Coverage begins at 7 Eastern with the Pro Football Tonight pregame show, followed by the kickoff at 8. That's tomorrow night, the NFL on TNT.
Tampa Bay off to a good start. Should be a good football game. We're in the middle of the 6th inning. The Braves 2 runs on 3 hits with airless ball. The Expos a run on 2 hits. They have committed 1 error. Javi Lopez has been in the center of everything for the Braves tonight. He homered for 1 run, and he led off the 5th with a single and scored the 2nd. Keith Lockhart will lead off the 6th. He was up when Kenny Lofton got picked off to end the 5th inning. First pitch swinging and doesn't get the change. 0-1. Martinez adds to the effectiveness of his changeup with a lot of motion. Watch how quickly the arm comes through. This one is grounded foul. 0-2. Long arms, a lot of elbows and kneecaps, and when the arm comes around with the speed of a fastball, and then all of a sudden you get 10-12 miles off of it. It can be very effective.
And he has a good fastball to go with it. He's not a very big guy to throw the pitch as hard as he throws it. He's only about 5'11", about 170.
How long his arms are, though. He can get some great leverage. 8 strikeouts. He is on his way to 300. Lockhart stays alive. Still 0-2. Nice play, Greg Maddux. Expecting it. He had the glove. What a surprise.
Hey, he has said before, and I'm not kidding you when I say this, he has said before, when hitters are up there, if he pitches them down and in on this next pitch, he's going to hit one right to me in the dugout. He's going to foul one right over this way.
There's strikeout number 9.
I don't know if he was thinking that on that particular pitch, but some of his teammates say it's uncanny how he can predict if a pitch is thrown in a certain location to a hitter, what that hitter will do with it. It's part of his success as a pitcher, studying things like that.
And there he is again tonight talking to the hitting coach. Here's Chipper Jones up for his 3rd time, hitless in 2 trips. He sends a big one-hopper to Segui at first. And the second out in the 6th inning is an easy one for Martinez. 2 gone for Fred McGriff. 9 strikeouts for Martinez. He has nailed McGriff twice.
Up to 293 now in the year.
And 300, obviously a goal, and it would be a feather in the cap for the Expos organization to have a pitcher who would have done it. They are not going to win the division. They're not going to be in postseason play. McGriff sends a liner to right. May have broken his bat, but he has a base hit. He'll take that. That's the 4th hit for the Braves. McGriff will stand at first for Ryan Klesko. He has also struck out twice. But being able to juggle around, and you were saying Felipe Lewis said he will give him every opportunity.
Yeah, he gets one more start after tonight, and then he'll go to the bullpen if he hasn't got 300 strikeouts. If he hasn't got 300 strikeouts next weekend, Saturday and Sunday, he'll be available out in the bullpen to come in and work an inning or 2 if he needs to try to get that 300.
Klesko fouls the first one away. It's 0-1. But that's kind of one of those good news, bad news things. It would be a feather in the cap of the Expos to have a player who's done it, but
the bad news is you're not resting him up for postseason.
That's exactly right. You wouldn't be juggling him for 300 strikeouts if you were headed to postseason. Up and in, McGriff on the move, and McGriff in there with a stolen base. Expos forgot about him.
That's when he steals on you. If you pay attention to him like any other base runner, he hardly ever takes a crack at a stolen base, but if you ignore him, he swipes one on you. He's 5 for 5, and I'll guarantee every one of them's come in that same situation where the pitchers have just not been paying any attention to him over there.
And a pretty nifty little slide by McGriff to the right field side of the bag. He's in scoring position with the count 1-1 to Ryan Klesko. On the ground, right side, and through. Could be close at the plate. McGuire won't throw. Back to first. So the stolen base, the RBI single, little insurance for Tom Glavine. For Ryan Klesko, RBI number 84, it's 3-1.
Without that stolen base, probably runners at first and second. But with McGriff down at second, Ryan Klesko, a little bleeder that gets through the right side of the infield. McGriff gets a good jump, gets the green light all the way.
That's some good base running there. You saw him on his way to third watching Bobby Dews. Once you turn it down the line and head to the plate, you watch the play yourself, and it's like Fred McGriff needs a little rest. Ryan Klesko will stand at first for Michael Tucker. He has been struck out twice, and there goes Klesko. Throw to second. He is out of there. Not quite as good a jump and a little bit better throw, but it's a good inning for the Braves. They pick up one more on 2 hits. Nobody left through 6. It's 3-1.
Be followed by Darren Fletcher and then Doug Strange. Takes outside ball 1. Reading an interview with Rondell White recently, and he's going to pretty much nail his season goals this year. He wanted to hit 25 home runs. He wanted to drive in 80. He's got 24 home runs now, and he's driven in 76. He might do exactly what he set out to do this year. That's foul. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Let's keep an eye on him next spring to see if he jacks his goals up.
See if he moves them up. Unlike some players who said just like to have the same year all over again.
Right. Besides, if you have a great year once, heck, they expect you to do it every year.
1 ball, 1 strike.
Hot in the middle of the season, but cooling off a little bit in September.
In the air, center field, and deep. Lofton drifting back. Took a peek at the wall, see how much room he had, and he had enough. One down. And that'll bring up Darren Fletcher.
Scouting report on White is he is a fly ball hitter. And I think most people think that most home runs are hit on high fastballs. That was one right at the top of the numbers. But that's a hard pitch to drive out of any ballpark, but especially this one. 2 flies to left and 1 to center.
Darren Fletcher has bounced back to the pitcher and grounded out to first. Now this one rolled to short. That bat's going to be almost in the baseline as Darren Fletcher is thrown out by Rafael Belliard.
Right on the end of the bat. Look how close that broke to where he held it. That had to split right in the middle of his hands.
Yeah. It almost looked at first like it was the whole bat going down the line. Here's Doug Strange, who's popped to third and struck out. 1 ball, no strikes.
Watch where this breaks. It was right in the middle between his left and his right hand.
In the air to right, Tucker drifting toward the corner. Should be another easy inning for Tom Glavine, as he needs just 5 pitches to get the Expos 1-2-3. Bottom half of the 7th coming up. Still 3-1 Atlanta.
Bring it here on TBS. That's what's on deck for the Braves.
And as we go to the bottom half of the 7th, Michael Tucker is struck out twice. Will lead off against Pedro Martinez. Braves leading it 3-1. 0-1 the count. Nothing in 2. Martinez going for another double-digit strikeout game. He's already had 17 games this year where he struck out 10 or more.
Yes, so many ways to do it.
1 ball, 2 strikes.
Good live fastball. He has a very crisp slider. And much like his brother Ramon, he doesn't use that slider as often.
He now has 18 games with 10 strikeouts or more. That was number 10.
He has a good enough slider. It could be his first or second pitch. But he doesn't use it as often as he does his changeup. His fastball changeup combination is so effective. Remember when Ramon Martinez came up, the Braves will remember it. He struck out, what, 18 Braves one day? Fastball changeup. If you're good enough, if they are good enough, you can do that.
Javi Lopez, 2 out of 2. Up to 299 now for the year. He's homered and singled tonight. Scored 2 runs. And down on the count 0-1. We gave you Mike Piazza hitting 300 in the National League. A couple of American League catchers are over 300. Sandy Alomar and Fudge Rodriguez.
And with some pretty good power numbers for those 2 too.
Alomar with 18 homers. Rodriguez with 19. Javi now with 23. Upstairs, 1 ball, 1 strike. Just looking at the game-by-game on Martinez for the year, we talked about 18 double-digit strikeout games. That's impressive enough, but on the other end, equally as impressive, the count goes to 1-2. This is his 30th start. He's only had 1 start this year where he hasn't struck out at least 5.
Yeah, regardless of who you are or how good a strikeout pitcher, you always have 1 or 2 during the season.
Yeah, you
Even
usually have
Nolan
1 when you
Ryan.
get knocked out in the 1st or 2nd inning.
That's
You don't
right.
have a chance to strike out many.
I bet it even happened to Nolan Ryan once.
2 balls, 2 strikes on Lopez. Fouled away, still 2-2. Martinez now at 294 strikeouts for the year. Grounded toward third and foul. Still 2-2.
You were saying that Philippe Alou is going to give him a shot to get 300 if he has to pitch him in relief. I'll bet you what he's thinking. One of the reasons he's gearing it up a notch tonight is let me get as close as I can, because I don't think I like that relief stuff.
Yeah, he probably wants to take that last weekend off. And it looks like he might be able to. It's already an individual high for a Montreal Expo pitcher in one season.
Broke Bill Stoneman's record.
Bill Stoneman, right? He was here, by the way. Stoneman, the vice president of baseball operations now at the Expos. Another bouncing ball to third. This one stays fair. And Strange throws out Lopez. 2 down.
Yeah, they got a couple of ex-pitchers in the hierarchy up there.
Jim Beattie, their GM. He's also here for the trip. 2 gone. The batter Rafael Belliard, who is flying out to right and then a sacrifice bunt.
There are not a lot of executives making trips this time of the year. A lot of general managers, club presidents, and advisors, because they're trying to meet with their people to put that 15-man list together for expansion, to protect from expansion.
Montreal also trying to get a new ballpark built in their city, so they wanted to take a look at this place. But a few members of their front office here for the trip. 0-2 now in Belliard. 2 outs, bottom of the 7th. Braves leading at 3-1.
I hear they're running up against some pretty stiff opposition to that, though, up in Montreal.
Yeah, I talked with Dave Van Horn, one of the Expo broadcasters, and he said they're just not getting much information. He said some days they hear things that sound good. Some days they hear things that they're just not sure about. He said all the indications that the broadcasters have had is that it's about a better than 50-50 proposition that the stadium will get done. But nobody has any numbers yet to see how the season ticket sales and the season license sales, which they're selling now, are going. 11th strikeout for Martinez. One step closer to 300. We go to the 8th inning. 3-1. There for the catch, 1 down. McGuire hit a double in almost that same spot as last time up.
And the Braves, as you will see them do if you watch them all year long, they have a scouting report. They set out with a defensive plan, but they're not afraid to adjust it. And that's what they did on McGuire.
Now Pedro Martinez, who has struck out and reached on a fielder's choice. Jimmy Guadagno, the baseball systems man for Atlanta, he keeps all the charts, computerizes everything. And also coordinates the scouting reports from the advanced scouts. They send all their material to Jim, and Jim gets it all ready to be looked at by Bobby and the coaches. 1-0 pitch.
There are a lot of Jimmy Guadagnos in baseball. They are the guys who are in the shadows and don't get brought out in the open very often and don't get as much credit as they deserve. But every successful ball club has a guy like him working his fanny off every night, so you have all the information you need.
3 balls, no strikes, and Martinez. Glavine has walked 3 in the game and struck out 3 as well. There's a strike. 3-1. Outside corner, full count. Tom Glavine trying to keep this string alive against the Montreal Expos, who have not beaten him since 1992. And he comes back and gets Martinez. That is his 4th strikeout. Another string of 6 in a row set down now by Glavine, and back we go to the top of the order, and Mark Ridz-Olenek.
That was some good pitching, getting down 3-0. He didn't try to reach back and throw harder, didn't try to do anything fancy, just stayed belt high, outer half, and said, put it in play. I don't think you're going to hit it out of the ballpark, and he ended up getting the strikeout.
Ridz-Olenek tonight, a single, fly to right, and had a sacrifice fly to right. Nothing in 1. Inside corner. 0-2 the count on the Expos shortstop.
He's been saving that pitch. He hasn't used it very much. It has been a great part of his recent success, the ability to nail the inside corner. Good time for it there.
Here's the 0-2 on the way. Got him a chase. He fouled it back. 0-2. Again, the 0-2 fouled off again. "54 doubles for Mark Grizzolanek this year. His first 2 years of the Expos, he had a total of 46 doubles.
Alley to alley hitter. Left center field to right center field. A line drive hitter.
They will check it first. No swing, says Bill Hahn.
See what Javi Lopez wanted him to do with that pitch? Wanted him to go up and away, because they figure he's not going to drive the ball out of the ballpark. There was the sign up, but the pitch missed down and away, tailing fastball. He's twice hit fly balls to right field, a couple of lazy ones.
Grounded foul. Still 1-2 with 2 outs here in the 8th inning.
Just watching the way the Braves are pitching, it would lead you to believe that they think he is a better inside hitter, that he might hit the ball when you go away, but he's not going to drive the ball.
Foul away again. The battle continues.
Showing him enough fastballs now. He's got him set up for a change. Watch Javi Lopez lead. Nope, fastball back outside.
And fouled away again.
See what he does on that pitch away, Pete? He does. You see a lot of guys step in and just drive the ball. It's almost like he's playing pepper. He's just kind of flicking the ball. So a guy who swings like that, the front side opens a little bit. See the front side go? He's already spent, so he's not going to drive that ball. He's just going to loft it lazy to right field.
Again, the 1-2. And this time he gets him. Strikeout number 5 for Tom Glavine. Another 1-2-3 inning. He's retired the last 7 he's faced. And it's still 3-1 Atlanta as they go to the bottom of the 8th. This division clinched by Monday or Tuesday at the latest. Glavine's next start won't come until next Thursday.
Yeah, they'll just do a little fine-tuning.
Just fine-tuning. Bobby not sure. He's going to use 4 starters in the playoffs. He's not sure yet in what order. And he said the sooner we can clinch this thing, the more time we'll have to get that set up. And the final start for most of these guys will go 3, 4, 5 innings tops. They have every one of the front 4 starters worked well over 200 innings. John Smoltz at the top of the list with 250. Glavine tonight's going to get to 233. Maddox at 224. Nagel at 222. And a little tap to the right side. Again, you won't see Glavine run hard on this one. Only when he is going to reach base or has a chance to reach base.
I'm sure each of those 4 guys has something they'd like to accomplish the next time out. What did John Smoltz tell us last night? That he's been very effective on one side of the plate with his fastball. So you can almost expect, obviously they want to avoid losing and would like to win, but you're going to see them maybe pitching a game like you would see during exhibition season. Maybe a lot of fastballs in a row or whatever pitch they need to work on.
And talking with Bobby about the pitching rotation in postseason, they kind of work backwards in that best of 5 series. Tell you why after this pitch to Lofton, which is a strike, 1 ball, 1 strike. He said the first thing we decide is who do we want to pitch game 5, if there is a game 5. And then once they get that name, that's the person who's going to pitch game 1, because the pitcher in game 1 will come back and pitch in game 5. But the first decision they will make when Bobby and Leo and the rest of the coaches sit down together is who do we want to pitch if there's a game 5. Here's the 1-2 now to Lofton upstairs, 2-2.
And And so you say, well, who has matched up well against the Central Division winner?
Right. Whether it's Houston or Pittsburgh. Full count now, 3-2.
Of course, that guy would match up well against the 27 Yankees. But
Up the middle, base hit center field for Kenny Lofton.
that's a good at bat for Kenny Lofton. He took a pretty good high fastball and turned it right back up the middle after getting backed off the plate. This is timing. Here it comes, and he's right on it. What he said is, I don't think you're going to throw me the changeup. If you come with the fastball, I'm going to get you. You come with the changeup, you got me.
That is hit number 6 off of Martinez. It'll bring up Keith Lockhart, who has struck out twice and singled. Got him again. Second pickoff of the night for Pedro Martinez of Kenny Lofton at first. He picked him off back in the 5th inning.
Bobby Cox is complaining that he didn't come set, that he was moving when he made the throw over there. But it's quick feet, quick turn, perfect throw, and a great tag. See, if that throw is 6 inches higher, they don't get him. Twice he has made the throw right down there where Segui could catch it, continue, and tag him out.
He had a big lead, as you can see. And he's picked him off twice now, and his last 2 times reaching.
Watching that replay, I see what Bobby Cox's gripe is. He came set up high, lowered his hands, and then pushed them back up, then threw over there.
0-2 the count now in Lockhart with 2 outs. And there is strikeout number 12 of the night for Pedro Martinez. In his quest to strike out 300 this year, he is now up to 296. We go to the 9th inning. The top of the 9th. Glavine has limited the Expos to 2 hits tonight. Lansing into a force play in the 1st inning, walked in the 4th, grounded out to 2nd in the 6th.
Just in case.
Glavine on the season has pitched 4 complete games. Off the corner, 1 ball, 1 strike. He's ahead in the count, a ball and 2 strikes on Mike Lansing. Got him inside corner. Strikeout number 6 for Glavine. 8 in a row set down.
He's been saving that the last couple of innings, and I tell you, I can't tell you how much Javi Lopez has improved his pitch selection and pitch calling over the last couple of years. A lot of catchers just stick down numbers. Not anymore. He is calling pitches. That was a pitch that he went to that Tom Glavine didn't shake to. That's thinking with your pitcher.
Now Henry Rodriguez has walked a couple of times into a 5-4-3 double play. His first time up, takes ball 1. With the Marlins losing today, if the Braves can hang on here, the magic number will be down to 2. The Yankees win today, gets them into postseason. They have clinched a wild card. The Orioles are in. The Braves are in the postseason and have not yet clinched the division. This one out of play, and the count 2-1.
It looks like all eyes may be out west the last weekend of the season.
It looks like that might be the only race left, is that race between the Giants and the Dodgers. Houston and Pittsburgh still have a race going on. 3.5 games separate them, and they play each other final weekend of the season. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Glavine during the regular season has pitched 2 hit games on 4 occasions, the last one back in '92 against San Diego.
One of the things that's so easy to admire about Tom Glavine is his composure. You watch him pitch, I guarantee you can't tell what the score is. 4-0, 5-0, up 6-1, or working on a 2-hitter.
Grounded slowly toward first. McGriff will take it himself. Out number 2. And Glavine 1 out away from his 14th win. And the crowd here at Turner Field on its feet, wanting to see Tom Glavine wrap it up right here with David Segui, who is 0 for 3. Nothing in 1. On the ground to second. Tony Graffinino has got it on to first in time. Magic number is down to 2 as the Braves win their 6th in a row. A 2-hitter for Tom Glavine. Final score, Atlanta 3, Montreal 1.
Clearly the star of the game tonight, Tom Glavine, going 9th, pitching the 2-hitter. Glavine allowed 1 run. He struck out 6, his 5th complete game. He's our AutoZone player of the game. We'll try to have a visit with him after our next time out. Braves win it 3-1. We'll be back right after this.